The death of two striker formations. Very rarely do we see teams use two strikers in football anymore. The only team that comes to mind nowadays that uses the two striker formation is Inter Milan, Lautaro Martinez and Thuram. Other than that, I can't think of much others. I do know a team that could revive two striker formations, and I'll talk about that at the end. In the 90s era, the two striker formation was at its peak. Majority of the top clubs and the so-called smaller clubs all had a two striker formation. If you look at the Premier League, basically every team had two strikers. United famously had York and Cole, and they later on had Rooney and Tevez. Arsenal had Henry and Bergkamp. AC Milan had Van Basten and Hullet, and Shevchenko and Crespo later on. I know Hullet also used to play in the middle, but he was a striker. I think FIFA's confused everyone to thinking into making everyone think this guy was a DM. Brazil had Romario and Bebito, Chelsea, Drogba and Anelka. I could go on all day. If you wanted to be successful in the 90s and early 2000s, you basically needed a strong pairing up top who clicked well. The last two title winning sides I can think of that used a two striker formation was Lille in 2021 and Leicester in 2016. Both teams using a 4-4-2 and both were miracles in a way. Two teams who no one expected to win the league. But why has the two striker model declined so much after being the most used formation for nearly 30 years? Well, it comes down to a variety of reasons. Over time, teams get used to playing against the same system over and over again, and they find solutions to play against it. If you played the midfield three against the midfield two, the midfield three was likely to dominate possession, and you couldn't get a hold of the ball. It's very hard to create chances if you don't have the ball. Where we started to see a shift away from two striker formations, in my opinion, was when Pep Guardiola implemented his tiki-taka style of play, and people saw how dominant a possession-based midfield three that loves to pass the ball around quickly, how actually dominant it was. Does that even make sense? How dominant it actually was, sorry. That was the first negative about a two-striker formation, is being outnumbered in midfield. Another reason is the predictability to defend against a 4-4-2. Most teams know that their aim is to get the ball to the strikers, so they'll just overcrowd the box or the strikers surrounding them the whole game. Instead of going man for man, they can just surround them. They can also have a midfielder shift into a third centre back, so the DM in the midfield three becoming a third centre back, and one of the eights pinning himself back, so that they were not outnumbered, the team playing with three in the middle. The wide players are also marked out of the game as they're touchline wingers, and it's extremely hard for touchline wingers to recover when losing the ball or even get involved in the game too much, as their primary aim is to run down the line and get a cross in. With modern day wingers now able to track back and don't stay as high up as they used to, it can lead to the winger playing in a 4-4-2 system feeling isolated, as if he does try to pass the ball, he will have to go backwards, because if he tries to go in the middle, he'll be overcrowded, and if he tries going down the line, he'll probably get tackled. But do I think football has just become more fluid than ever? Yes. I think that's the main reason the two striker formation has come to an end. Teams would much rather be flexible. Fullbacks, midfielders dominating position, and relying on two strikers holding up the play, it makes it easier for the opposition side to play through a two striker formation. There's usually less in the midfield to play through. Now, you may say by Inter play a 3-5-2, but that has its own cons too. They've not been able to win a single big match this season, and at times they've looked like they've had a lack of creativity. They're wide players. In football, for me, wide players are your main chance creators in football. Dumfries and DeMarco, as much as they do their roles very well, they're not really players who create chances for you. A midfield three of Çalhanoğlu, Barella, and Zelinski, for example, I'm not saying that's the exact midfield three they always line up with, they can't seem to create too much in matches, in comparison to how much possession they manage to have. Inter Milan dominate possession the majority of matches they have, but they don't create too many clear-cut chances, and that comes down to them being too defensive-minded, in my opinion, and not having enough movement out wide, or even attacking movement in the midfield. Now, I did say earlier, a team can revive two striker formations. Why did I say this so wrong? Two striker formations, sorry. Which team was I talking about? A team that spent 200 million on two elite strikers in the most Sama is crazy. In the most recent summer transfer window. Yes, Liverpool. Ekitike and Isak have it in them to bring back two striker formations, and yet Liverpool can still be as dominant as modern day teams playing without a two striker system. I think both of them aren't your typical 90 striker, where they're kind of limited to only in the box work. Nope. Both of them can dribble, make channel runs, can drift off wide, both can win aerial battles, can roam around each other, and swap striker positions, as they're both comfortable with both feet, and Liverpool have the midfielders who can overload the middle. Wirtz has been playing left wing, well, on paper it says that, but he roams into a left cam or midfield position. Then the three in the middle, McAllister, Szoboszlai, and Gravenberch, and Frimpong and Kerkez, who aren't your classic 90s fullback. Again, both have speed, especially Jeremy Frimpong, who we see so often pinning back wingers. Just look against Marseille. He was a handful. One on one against him, and you're basically finished. That second goal against Marseille was all Jeremy Frimpong. His speed is too much. Szoboszlai can play off the right area too and inverting like Wirtz does. I'm not saying that's his best position. I know he's best in the middle, but him and Wirtz can both be inverting inwards, overloading the midfield, and out wide have Kirkers and Frimpong. I think Liverpool have tried to copy PSG style of play with fullbacks, as we see Slot mention that PSG side a lot. Obviously, I'm not saying Frimpong and Kirkers are the levels of Nuno Mendes and Hakimi, but both can do the role kind of well, especially Frimpong for me, who suits it very well. That's the end of the video, everyone. Let me know what you lot think. Have we seen the end of two striker formations, or can Isak and Ekitike bring that back to football? Thank you for watching.